chose Aniwa Mayak Uwe Pila Mayaye Pila Mayaye Abedu Wakacha Mayak Uwe Pila Mayaye We chose Aniwa Mayak Uwe Pila Mayaye Pila Mayaye. I got inspired to do the flute really from hearing this. There was only a few gentlemen around, this was years ago, that had perpetuated this long tradition of flute playing, and the songs go with it. I can remember there was Henry Crow Dog was one gentleman who did this. Another one was Dan Red Buffalo. Another one was Richard Fool Bull. There's a gentleman up in Cannonball, North Dakota, who knew a lot about this. His name was Peter Looking Horse. There's Eli Taylor. Just a few people I'm talking about in the northern area, Northern Plains area. Most famous of them, or the most outgoing of them, was Richard Fool Bull. He was born in the 1870s. He lived to be about 103. I remember just before he passed away, he did a little concert down at, this was in 1972. He did a little concert. I went to the concert at University of South Dakota. I went up close after his concert to look at his work, his handiwork, and then he was putting it all away, and I was just admiring it. And he kind of looked at me, and then I looked at him, and I asked him if anybody was in his family was carrying that tradition on. He said, no. He said, nobody's interested. I said, oh, that's too bad. I said, what about your grandkids? Maybe how about them? He said, no, none of them. Grandkids, great-grandkids. I even got great-great-grandkids, and none of them are interested, he said. And I said, wow. I said, that's really too bad. I said, it seems like somebody should carry this on. Somebody should carry this on. And then he was putting the stuff away, he put it all down, and looked at me and says, yeah. He looked at me and says, yeah. He says, he says. You know, music and language, they just go side by side. All of this, the songs that are played on the flute are simply instrumentalizing this vocal compositional genre. The flute is so much related to our voice, and basically all the songs that we learn on the flute are all songs that we can sing. So, you know, everybody loves music, everybody loves to sing. Some of us are not so good, so the flute's really good for that too. Position. We'll just do the hands. We'll go. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 3. 3, 3, 3, 5, 5. 3, 3, 2, 3, 3.
He's playing the original song, yes. And this song is a part of the Lakota Language Consortium. There's a little CD there. Yeah. So these are, it's a collection of children's songs, and so they use the melody and they change it for a counting song. I go to the schools, and then, you know, we make flutes. Then I teach them how to play the flutes. And the flutes that we make they're made of a synthetic material, but they're based on the original tuning system, like the pre-European tuning system. And so that tuning system is really good. It's very versatile, because not only can you get like the traditional scale, but you can also get, you know, chromatic scale and diatonic, and you can get 2 minor pentatonic scales. So it's really versatile. You can play almost anything with it. And then so I think it's really user-friendly scale, user-friendly flutes, and music teachers can easily adapt them. And then we created this whole curriculum here that shows, you know, all about the history behind it, the cultural context. Like, so then the drum represents the sound of the thunder, the flute is the sound of the wind, and then the rattle is the sound of the rain or the hail, and then the voice is the lightning. And also it shows the, you know, the anatomy of the flute.
and then it's mostly just full of all these songs, these different songs that are pedagogically sequenced so that the learners can just progress right through. Really good. I have a lot of fun with it, and it's really cool because you can just see such a rapid acceleration in learning. Just from the fact that they can make the flutes in under an hour, like usually 40 minutes, get a class of 30 kids. They can all have their flutes, just a piece of plastic there, and you can't do anything, and then suddenly it can make sounds and make scales and everything. And then to go from not knowing anything about music or wind instruments, and then suddenly within another hour they can be playing songs. It's really cool to see that. It's one of the most linguistically diverse places on the planet. In North America, they have 15 language families, something like 500 or 600 languages. The problem was that you had people living side by side that have languages more distinct than English is from Chinese. So they had to create this. It was a necessity. So I'll show you the words and sign in, and we'll say the words as well. So when everybody try the first sign, it's your fingers are parallel with your eyes, and make one spiral up. And say the word waka. Waka. Very good. Next word is this one. Start with your hands here and bring it out and say tonka. Very good. So it's wakantanka. Next word, you just reach up like this. You say tunkashila. Tunkashila. Wakantanka is most great spirit, and tunkashila is another honorific, another way of addressing the one above. Now we just turn our hands around like this and just bring it down a little bit. You say. So everything we do is language independent.
The music and the dance.
Yeah. Now we can say a little bit, but don't, once you start talking, you lose everybody. There's a high level of communication that could take place non-verbally without language. The only thing you can do is to try and find that common ground and operate from that. That imaginary boundary that we see between ourselves and maybe the natural world, that's all dissipated. And everything's brought together through the arts, through music and dance and through the arts. The gap between generations is all nullified through the arts. The gap between ourselves and maybe our neighbors or maybe other people, we can bring that all together. It's a choreographed prayer. The main story, which is portrayed in the hoop dance, is a story about the transition from the winter into the spring. So in other words, like the condition of where everything's static and dormant and lifeless and dark and cold and still, transition from that condition into what we see right now. You look around, you can see it. The light, the beauty, the color, the fragrance, all the sounds, the movement, the dynamism, this condition right here, the life or the spring. All the signs of spring appear in this 28-day period or 28-day lunar cycle. So that's why in my dance I use the 28 hoops. So then starting with one, then you start to create in sequence all these different signs of spring. So what it represents in a kind of a very condensed form is the fact that every day in the springtime you wake up and you'll see a new color and you'll see a new shape. All the clouds change, everything changes, and it's a visual transformation. And every day you wake up, you're going to hear a new sound. All the insects come alive and all the birds come back and everything. So every day when you wake up in that 28-day lunar cycle, you're going to inhale a different fragrance. All the different smells, all the flowers, the fragrances, everything like that. So every day is like a sensual revolution happening. And so we portray that in the different design elements that unfold in that dance. The physical spring that we observe in the contingent world is simply a metaphor for the springtime that happens in the collective heart of humanity. So that's a springtime that autumn can never overtake. And I think that's an underlying vision or prayer that all people have. All people have an aspiration of attainment of a day of fulfillment, a day when people will be ennobled, a day when things will be made right. This is kind of an underlying universal theme, I think. And so the hoop dance is also
is also a portrayal of that theme, because in the Lakota language, the word for a political grouping of people is we say Oyate Ta Changalishka, the hoop of the nation. So the different colored hoops also represent diverse peoples. So then in one sense, the hoop dance also portrays the life and the dynamism we can create when we interact as different peoples working together. See? The word ni means both breath and life. And so, for instance, when a person is born, the first thing that they do is that they take a breath. And when they take that breath, that they will breathe all the way until that's when the Holy Spirit enters into the human reality, and then that breathing process will continue all the way until they leave this world. And then from then on, they're under the care of the Creator as they proceed. But so then, ni, if I was to ask if somebody's alive, I'll say, hey nahachti ni unhe, is that person still breathing? But that's how you say if they're still alive. You see, so it's really the same word, and so so we're connected. We're connected to the power of this world, the power of the wind, through our breath. And also one of the words for the Creator, for the one above, God, they say takushkanshka, which means the animating force in creation. So even on a still day, when you don't feel very much air movement, still in the top of the trees you can see the leaves are moving like that. So that means that there's always that spirit of movement present in the world. And so they also say that when you're born, that power, that spirit of movement is imprinted on you. And that's your fingerprints, you see? You can see that everybody's got a unique pattern on their hands. So every one of us, we have that imprintation or that imprinting of that spirit of movement in the creation. And as we all know, the most powerful form of wind would be like tornadoes or hurricanes or typhoons. And so that's when that power of the wind takes that shape of the circle. So we have that also too. So we have, we have that where that power aggregates is right here, right near the top of our fingers. It's right there. And so when we play the flute, then it's really important that center, that bullseye, that place where that circle starts, the very center of it, that very center of that circle has to cover, the middle of that has to go over the middle of the hole, see? So that way we harness that power of the wind. We harness the power of the wind that's in our body, like when we breathe, and that power of the wind which is imprinted on our physical reality. So we use that whole power to create music, see? With the flute. Yeah. The eagle catches a convection or an updraft and begins to spiral upwards. You watch them and eventually they disappear, they go out of sight, you see. And so then they always say when the eagle goes out of sight, then the eagle communes with Wakantanka, God. Eagle communes with God. And so that's when you use the eagle bone whistle, it's just like you're uttering that ineffable prayer, that prayer that transcends the murmur of syllables and sounds. The eagle is in that theme of that everything in the world is a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality. So within that, then the eagle in one sense can be analogous to the human spirit. So the eagle represents that innate nobility of the human spirit, and also represents the capacity that we have to activate our spiritual wings of knowledge. You could say like our wings of knowledge, understanding, and to soar. Every eagle feather is said to represent like a virtue. I was mentioning like virtues. When we can list so many, like patience and forbearance and love and kindness and courtesy and wisdom, and you just go on and on, just so many of them. So you could say like every feather on that eagle represents a virtue. But, for you and I, even though we're born with all these virtues, we can't fly with them unless we use them in service to our fellow man. We have to use those in service. We can't use those virtues for self-aggrandizement or for egotistical purpose. But when you use them selflessly in service, that's the only way we can soar, you see. That's the difference between the eagle that's flying out there and you and I, is we have to use our volition, we have to use our will to harness those innate virtues and use them in service to our fellow man. Then we can soar, then there's no limit.